The Dershow.
The judge gave him multiple choice, said, look, it could possibly be that he intended to violate taxes. Of course, he didn't violate taxes because, as far as I know, the tax returns still haven't been filed. And if they have, no deduction was taken for legal expenses. And if it was, it might very well have been proper. But so one possibility is that in his mind, he had in mind that 2 years hence, some accountant would list this as a deductible expense. Accountants make those decisions pretty independently. I mean, my accountant does. I just give them the facts and they decide whether to deduct it or not. But so one possibility is there was an intent to violate state, federal income tax laws. If it's federal, of course, it's beyond the jurisdiction of a state court, but maybe state. The other is the phantasmological one that he intended to defraud the voters by making them think that Donald Trump was somebody who never engaged in any kind of sexual activities outside of marriage. And the third of which is that he intended to make an illegal tax, an illegal campaign contribution, even though he wouldn't have had to list that until after the election. So what would be the purpose of listing it falsely if you didn't have to list it until months after the election was over? And then the judge says to the jury, make it easy on you. You don't have to conclude any of these things happened beyond a reasonable doubt just by a preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not. And to make it even easier, you don't have to even agree with each other as to what it was, as long as you all agree that he did something that in his mind would have constituted a future crime if it had been implemented, that he intended, that he had a kind of state of mind, intent to violate another criminal law. And that's why he did it. Now, if you can get a jury to understand that, and of course the jury doesn't understand it. They've already asked for the instructions to be read back. We don't know how much of the instructions. And again, New York, crazy rules. They don't allow the jury to have the instructions written out. So if they want to hear the instructions, this judge has to read them again. Will he read them exactly the same way? Is he reading from a script? Same emphasis? Is the judge going to take another hour reading the instructions, or will he read only part of the instructions? We just don't know. But I'll tell you one of the things that worried me most, and I don't put anything by this judge, and I admit this is highly, highly speculative, but I know a case on this, so that I'm not making it up. The judge said he's not going to dismiss the alternate jurors until there's an absolute verdict. One possible reason for that, and again, I want to emphasize that I'm speculating, one possible reason for this might be following, and it's quite cynical. Let's assume that the jurors come back and say, sorry, we're deadlocked. We have one juror who just won't give in. There are 11 of us who think he's guilty. By the way, the jurors don't say what they think. They just say there's a deadlock. But if they come back that way, the inference will be that the jury is locked 11-1 in favor of conviction. So the judge hears from the jurors, and the judge hears that they're 11-1. And then the judge says, well, is that other juror, the 12th juror, is he negotiating? Is he involved in the conversations? And the foreman of the jury says, no, he's refusing. He's sitting there with his arms folded saying, guy's innocent. Sorry, guy's innocent. I'm not going to listen to you. The guy's innocent. There's no case here. The guy's innocent. If I were on the jury, that's what I'd be doing. And then the judge has the power, rarely exercised, but he has the power. I've seen it done to say, well, if this juror won't deliberate, then he's violating his oath. And I'm going to substitute one of the alternate jurors for that juror, and then immediately they come back with a 12-0 verdict of conviction. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm not saying that's even in the judge's mind. But knowing this judge and seeing him in actions, particularly having seen him in action the day I was in the court when they cleared everybody, but I was allowed to stay. Why, I still don't know. And I saw the real Judge Merchan. That's not beyond the realm of possibility. So anything's possible. This judge wants Donald Trump convicted. He does not want to go home to his family and his friends and his daughter and his daughter's employer and say, look, I'm the person responsible for Donald Trump becoming your next president. He doesn't want to do that. And the jurors don't want to do that. And I think appellate judges don't want to do that either, which is why if he is convicted, even on this horrible record, which would have resulted in reversal for any other defendant, even Harvey Weinstein, the idea that an appellate court judge would be willing to sacrifice his social life, his career, his opportunity for promotion by being known as the judge who allowed Donald Trump to become president is just not realistic in New York. There are a lot of New Yorkers, including some of my acquaintances and friends, who regard Donald Trump as Adolf Hitler. They really do. And they think that anybody who helps him in any way is Himmler or Goering or Goebbels. They think of me that way, even though I voted for Joe Biden, and even though I was only a lawyer on the constitutional issues involving impeachment, but on Martha's Vineyard, they won't talk to me. They won't talk to my wife. They won't talk to my children. That's just a preview of what would happen. Even worse, in New York, to any juror, any judge who was perceived as having participated in the acquittal of Donald Trump, thereby enabling him to become the president. So I don't think there's really any realistic possibility of a fair trial or a fair appeal. That doesn't mean that it might not be a hung jury or an acquittal. I just think that it's more likely than not that jurors will be influenced. The judge said they shouldn't be influenced, but I think they will be influenced, and I think they would be influenced toward conviction rather than acquittal.